Greetings, music lovers. Rick Ferguson, rickfergusonmusic.com. Thank you for joining me in this viewer request video. Mozart's Fantasia in D minor for the piano. To my viewer, Michael, thank you so much for suggesting this. What an iconic piece of music. Mozart arrived in Vienna in 1781, and he immediately set about the task, which was rather novel at his time, of not only seeking to secure a position with the court in Vienna, perhaps, or some other high-profile position, but really he spent most of his time serving as, for lack of a better term, his own impresario. And so what that meant in this time period, really 1781 through 1783, he was writing such a huge mix of different kinds of pieces. And this 5-year period from 1781 to 1786 saw some huge developments, not only as a composer, but as his own advocate, as a significant musical voice in Vienna, and slowly becoming something of an authoritative musical voice. So, for instance, he wrote during this 5-year span of time well over a dozen piano concerti, and he really transformed that form. And we have the 6 Haydn string quartets, who are in their own way very transformational in the history of string quartet writing, and of course his Mass in C minor. All of this music came from this period. This particular D minor fantasy, we think probably was written in early 1782. And at this time, Mozart was writing a lot of music for his own students and also patrons. And so, this may very well have been one of those pieces, and it was left unfinished. For whatever reason, the last 10 measures or so of the piece were left unfinished, and I'll get to that story in a moment. But let's look at this piece a little bit. It has perhaps one of the most iconic openings in the Mozart lexicography. Mozart gives us the information that he wants this opening in andante, but we're in alla breve time, so we're in 2/2 time. So he wants us to feel that half note pulse, but yet if you think about the speed of the harmonic rhythm, it starts out very slowly because the first 2 measures are in the tonic of D minor. Again. Now we start to have a little bit of diminished type sounds. Dominant 7th in the bass, and you notice these chords, each one, the harmony is for 2 measures, and so it's very expansive, and it really sets up a like an eerie quality. In German, sometimes we can use the word unheimlich to describe this kind of very eerie quality, but then the harmonic motion quickens to 2 harmonies per measure. Working our way to the dominant. There's the 5. Then the next section marked Adagio, also starting in the home key, D minor, very plaintive melody, but we're still staying in alla breve, right? So we want to keep that in mind, otherwise these 8th notes that Mozart gives us in the left hand can become insanely ponderous. So if we're dealing with Adagio, with quarter note getting the beat, that's going to be hard to maintain the musical line. If we're feeling the 2 beats per measure, crazy expressive, which really brings us back to one of my favorite topics, the Sturm und Drang, storm and stress movement of this time period. And since this was written at the beginning, most likely, of 1782, this would have been at the height of Sturm und Drang composition. And perhaps more than any other piece of Mozart's, it shows the influence of C.P.E. Bach, C.P.E. Bach really being at the forefront of Sturm und Drang composition. And I think that there's definitely an influence here, especially since we have in the course of this particular Fantasia a significant movement between minor, diminished, but then later major harmonic sounds and harmonic motion. Very different moods going through the piece. And so it's almost in a way one of the prototypical romantic pieces that came out of this Sturm und Drang period. And so we have Mozart exploring this slightly darker, more melancholic, and really very expressive, sort of intimately expressive minor section. And then everything completely changes because he's using the fully diminished seventh chord as transitional sounds. For instance, right before we go into the allegro at the end, then one chord in the second inversion, 5/7. What's going to happen next? We move into the major. And so here, now we're back to a highly structured format. We're back to 8 measure phrases. He even starts to give us a little bit of Alberti bass type of motion. So it really picks up steam, and it's very, there's a nice uplifting, joyful quality about it. Now, let's get to this unfinished ending. We have an ending that was initially completed by August Eberhard Müller, who wrote the last 10 measures for this. So here, these final measures basically just recapitulate what one would expect, right? And I think those of you who know this piece very well, and so many of us do, we're accustomed to this ending. We're just accustomed to that. But Mozart didn't write that. Herr Müller wrote that. And it's a lovely ending, and it has become, for the most part, the standard ending. But what I want to do, I want us to listen to a wonderful recording of this piece by one of my very favorite Mozart players, of course, Mitsuko Uchida. And what she chooses to do at the end is to create her own alternate ending. And the thing that I find fascinating about her choice at the end of this piece is to recapitulate the opening andante, going back again to that iconic minor entrance. And I have to say, I love it. I'm absolutely convinced. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to have all kinds of discussion about what ending we would prefer, and more importantly, why. I love the idea of recapitulating that initial motive again and revisiting that more mysterious, darker element that Mozart begins with and sort of ending with that. And I think that Mitsuko Uchida handles that beautifully, absolutely beautifully. So let's listen to her recording of this Mozart Fantasy in D minor, and keep your ears open for what she's doing at the end. You know, it really is one of those Mozart pieces that is standard for so many students. But, you know, as is often the case with wonderful music, there's so many levels to these pieces that we can revisit a piece like this numerous times throughout our lives and really find something different every time that we play it. So I would certainly encourage you to do so, and I would also encourage you listen to numerous recordings of this piece. It's fascinating to me what various pianists will hear and will draw out of this music. And I think it's simply because Mozart has put something beautiful into place with such a wonderful mix of improvisatory type writing, but then also highly structured writing and sort of the emotional terrain that we move through while we're playing this piece. So enjoy. I hope this has been somewhat helpful. Please feel free to like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let me know what interests you, because obviously I love these viewer requests. So enjoy, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.